The morning sun filtered softly through the blinds, casting long, warm stripes across the modest apartment. Ryan sat at the edge of his bed, staring blankly at the floor as if the simple act of existing was suddenly foreign. His life had always been ordinary. Or at least, that's what he told himself. A 22-year-old software developer with a quiet routine, mornings spent coding, evenings sharing lazy dinners with Emma, his girlfriend of 2 years, and weekends usually lost in video games or low-key hangouts. But Ryan had a secret. A part of himself he had never fully explored aloud. Crossdressing wasn't just a curiosity, it was a fascination, a thrilling escape from the rigid expectations of his life. His apartment bore subtle traces of this hidden identity. A carefully folded skirt in his closet, a small box of makeup tucked behind a row of books, and heels lined neatly along the side of his dresser. Yet, these moments were private, fleeting. He had never dared to bring this part of himself into the light. Emma was the kind of girlfriend who noticed everything. She had a keen eye for details, but Ryan had learned to compartmentalize, to maintain a life where Alexis, the confident, daring persona he sometimes became, remained a ghost. Their relationship was close, loving, and occasionally teasing, but Ryan knew he could never risk revealing this secret. Emma had joked about fashion in passing, laughed at cute Instagram posts, but she didn't know the depth of his private desires. The apartment was unusually quiet that morning. Emma had left early for a work conference, and Ryan was alone, the solitude amplifying the tiny whispers of longing that always accompanied his secret cravings. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, he opened the small box of makeup he kept hidden in the bottom drawer. Lip gloss, mascara, a delicate palette of eyeshadows, the tools of transformation, each item a key to a different version of himself. He glanced at the mirror across the room. The reflection staring back was just Ryan, ordinary, predictable. But he could imagine it changing. The contours of Alexis' face, softer, more defined, eyes sparkling with mischief and confidence. His pulse quickened at the thought, the thrill of stepping into a persona so different from his daytime reality. Work had always been a safety net, a place where Ryan could be methodical, precise, and in control. But even there, he often daydreamed about what it would be like to be someone else, someone admired, noticed, and undeniably feminine. The thought of dressing, applying makeup, slipping into high heels, and walking as Alexis filled him with both excitement and fear. Fear of judgment, fear of being caught, fear of losing the life he had carefully built. Yet, the temptation was irresistible. He thought of Emma again. What would she say if she ever saw Alexis? Would she understand, tease, reject, or embrace this side of him? The questions hovered, unanswered, adding tension to the quiet morning. He wanted to explore, to feel the thrill of transformation without consequences, but the risk was ever present. A knock at the door startled him, breaking his reverie. His heart leaped. Emma was not supposed to return for another few hours. Cautiously, he approached, only to find a small package resting against the door frame. No sender name, no clue why it had arrived. Inside was an envelope containing a single message: "Are you ready to become her?" The words were typed neatly, formally, but the implication was intoxicating. Ryan felt a shiver crawl down his spine. This wasn't just a tease, it was a challenge. A test of his secret desires. He sank back onto the bed, staring at the envelope. The apartment was still, but the air felt electric, charged with possibility. Alexis was calling. The world of skirts, heels, and makeup was just beyond his reach, waiting for a decision he wasn't sure he was ready to make. His pulse raced as he opened the package further, revealing a sleek, form-fitting dress, perfectly tailored. It was navy, elegant, with delicate lace details along the neckline, a dress that whispered of sophistication, daring, and the persona he had longed to embrace. Ryan's fingers trembled as he touched the fabric, imagining how it would feel against his skin, how it would reshape him, not just physically but emotionally. For the first time, he realized the depth of his desire, to become Alexis fully, to explore the thrill of transformation without restraint. But alongside that excitement was fear, the fear of exposure, the fear of Emma's reaction, the fear of stepping across a line from which there might be no return. Sitting there, holding the dress and staring at his reflection, Ryan understood that this was the beginning. Alexis wasn't just a fantasy anymore, she was a possibility. A persona waiting to be awakened. And whether he wanted it or not, the journey from boy to her perfect girl had begun. The morning sunlight cast a glow over the apartment, and Ryan felt a strange mixture of anticipation and dread. Alone, With a package at his side, he whispered softly to himself, "Maybe it's time." Ryan stood in front of the mirror, the navy dress clutched against his chest. His heartbeat thundered in his ears, each pulse a reminder of the risk he was about to take. Alone in the apartment, he had no audience, no judgment, but that made it all the more intense. Alexis, the persona he had kept locked away in secret fantasies, was about to step forward. He carefully slipped out of his t-shirt and jeans, feeling the cool morning air brush against his skin. The texture of the dress was soft, almost liquid against his fingers, and as he pulled it over his shoulders, the fabric hugged his body in ways that made him gasp. The sensation was both foreign and thrilling. For a moment, he imagined Emma walking in unexpectedly. His pulse quickened at the thought. Would she see him as a boy, or as Alexis? The uncertainty sent a shiver down his spine. Once the dress was in place, Ryan shifted his gaze to the makeup kit. The palette of eyeshadows, blush, and lip gloss seemed to call his name. He picked up a light foundation first, applying it with meticulous care. The mirror reflected a slightly softer, more feminine version of himself with each stroke, and he felt a peculiar mixture of vulnerability and empowerment. Next came the eyeshadow, subtle, neutral tones that enhanced his features without appearing exaggerated. His hands trembled slightly as he applied mascara, lengthening his lashes, making his eyes look wider, more expressive. Finally, a swipe of glossy pink lipstick completed the transformation. Standing back, Ryan barely recognized the reflection. Alexis looked back at him, confident, delicate, and undeniably feminine. His body had transformed, but so had his emotions. A rush of exhilaration mingled with fear. What would Emma think if she saw this? Could he truly embrace this side of himself without consequence? The heels were next. He had avoided wearing them for years, unsure if he could handle the physical balance required. Sliding his feet into the shiny black stilettos, he teetered at first, the unfamiliar height forcing him to adjust his posture. Each step was deliberate, each movement exaggerated in his mind. But soon, he felt a rhythm, a balance that made him sway with newfound grace. The world seemed different from this elevated perspective, more exciting, more dangerous. As Alexis, Ryan explored the apartment with a mix of curiosity and trepidation. Every corner, every reflection reminded him of the dual life he led. He walked past the mirror again, practicing expressions, adjusting the dress, making sure every strand of hair was in place. The thrill of secrecy, the knowledge that no one could see him like this, made his heart race. Then came the call from the package. A small card tucked inside, previously unnoticed, had instructions. "Tonight, you must attend the dinner. The choice is yours, show up as yourself, or as her. The consequences will follow." Ryan's mind reeled. A dinner meant other people, potential exposure, the possibility of judgment. Yet, the challenge was irresistible. He imagined the looks, the whispers, the subtle fascination of others if he walked in as Alexis. Internal conflict raged within him. He loved Emma, wanted her approval, feared her rejection. Yet a part of him craved freedom, the liberation of stepping fully into his desired persona. Could he hide Alexis from her forever, or was tonight the moment where his two worlds would collide? Hours passed in preparation. Ryan experimented with different hairstyles, tested the heels, adjusted the dress. Each detail mattered. Every slip could betray him, every flaw could unravel the illusion. And all the while, a persistent worry lingered. What if Emma returned early? What if someone else saw him? The tension was almost tangible. By evening, Ryan had rehearsed Alexis' voice, posture, and expressions. Every mirror in the apartment bore witness to the careful transformation. He felt ready, or as ready as he could be. The dress clung to his curves perfectly, makeup highlighted his features, and heels elevated his stance. He was Alexis now, not Ryan. As he took a deep breath, the doorbell rang. His heart jumped. Could it be a test? A friend? Or worse, Emma returning unexpectedly? The suspense was unbearable. He padded softly across the floor, heart pounding, and opened the door. Standing there was a young woman, impeccably dressed, with a clipboard in hand and a small, knowing smile. "Ready for tonight?" she asked. Ryan nodded, swallowing hard. This wasn't just a private fantasy anymore. It was about to unfold in the real world, under the watchful eyes of others. The evening promised exposure, tension, and the thrill of transformation magnified 100-fold. Every choice he made tonight would shape not just his appearance, but his emotional reality. Alexis was no longer just a secret, she was stepping into life, and Ryan had to follow, teetering between fear and exhilaration. The dinner hall was alive with murmurs, the clinking of glasses, and the soft hum of polite conversation. Ryan, now fully Alexis, stepped in carefully, heels clicking softly against the polished floor. Every eye didn't just glance at him, they assessed him. He felt the weight of their attention, the thin line between admiration and suspicion. His heart raced, but he forced himself to glide with the confidence he had rehearsed. At the table, other guests engaged in small talk, unaware of the internal storm raging inside him. Every laugh, every gesture, every glance from the host made him second-guess his choices. What if someone noticed the subtle tremor in his hands? The tiniest slip could expose him. Alexis had to be perfect. Midway through the dinner, a server accidentally brushed against him, causing the edge of his wig to shift. Ryan froze, adrenaline spiking, but Alexis instinctively adjusted it, smiling graciously as though nothing had happened. The relief was temporary. Each movement reminded him that the fantasy had entered the real world, and reality was unforgiving. Then, the unexpected twist, Emma walked in. She wasn't supposed to attend, yet here she was, scanning the room. Ryan's chest tightened. Her eyes met his, a flicker of recognition, or was it curiosity? He forced a smile, hoping she wouldn't approach. But as fate would have it, she started moving toward the table. Panic surged through him. Ryan. Emma's voice was light, casual, but carried an edge that made him flinch. He turned slowly, his lips parting in a polite, Alexis perfect smile. Alexis, he corrected, heart hammering. The introduction felt surreal. Emma tilted her head, a small smile forming, not mocking, but questioning. Every second was charged with tension. Ryan struggled to maintain his composure, aware that one wrong glance or stuttered word could unravel the persona he had worked so hard to construct. Sweat pricked his forehead. The heels suddenly felt taller, the dress tighter. He shifted subtly, hoping Emma wouldn't notice the inner turmoil. As dinner progressed, Ryan noticed subtle tests from the other guests. Compliments, pointed questions, even the way a colleague brushed past him, all heightened his anxiety. Each encounter was a symbolic moment, a potential reveal. Alexis had to navigate this maze of social expectations, the thrill of exposure balanced against the fear of discovery. At the end of the meal, the host proposed a toast. To bold choices and daring presentations. Glasses lifted. Ryan's hand shook slightly as he raised his glass, the clink echoing like a tiny alarm bell. He caught Emma's gaze across the table, her eyes searching, measuring, and just as quickly softening. Relief mixed with a flutter of guilt. She was curious, but not condemning, yet. Later, the symbolic moment arrived. A small slip, a misstep in the heels sent him teetering toward a waiter carrying a tray of drinks. Time slowed. He grasped for balance, the dress catching slightly on the tablecloth. The wig shifted again, and in that fraction of a second, Ryan's dual identities collided in a flash of panic. Alexis steadied herself, smiled, and the waiter passed by oblivious. The audience, friends, colleagues, strangers, remained unaware. Finally, the night drew to a close. Alexis had survived, navigated scrutiny, and upheld the delicate illusion. Yet the experience left Ryan drained, exhilarated, and terrified all at once. Emma approached him once more, this time alone. Her expression was inscrutable. Alexis, or Ryan? She asked softly, voice low enough for no one else to hear. Ryan froze. The ultimate question, the pinnacle of tension. What would he reveal? Which self could she accept? Before he could answer, the doorbell rang. A mysterious package lay on the mat, a new set of instructions, a new challenge. Heart racing, Ryan realized the suspense wasn't over. Alexis had survived the dinner, but the world outside awaited, and the stakes were now higher than ever. The night had settled into an uneasy quiet. Alexis stood by the window, heels clicking softly on the hardwood floor as she, or rather Ryan, peered out at the empty street below. The adrenaline from the dinner still thrummed in his veins, mingling with exhaustion and a dizzying mix of relief and fear. Each reflection in the glass seemed to hold two faces, the confident, smiling Alexis, and the anxious, uncertain Ryan. A faint knock at the door made him jump. Heart pounding, he froze, unsure whether to answer. Another soft knock followed, insistent this time. He glanced toward the hall mirror, his reflection split in the dim light, wig slightly askew, lips trembling ever so slightly. This moment felt symbolic, a mirror of the life he now balanced, one misstep away from total exposure.
Slow, measured footsteps approached.
Ryan's mind raced.
Emma?
A neighbor?
Someone who could unravel everything?
He debated hiding, fleeing, but the sound stopped abruptly, replaced by silence. His hand hovered over the doorknob, sweaty and trembling. Then came a soft, familiar voice from behind him. Ryan? Or Alexis?
He spun around.
Emma stood in the doorway, her expression unreadable. The ambiguity in her gaze made his stomach twist. Was she angry, amused, or simply curious? The uncertainty was suffocating. Before he could respond, the phone buzzed on the nearby table. A message notification glowed ominously. We need you ready by tomorrow. No mistakes. Ryan's breath hitched. Another layer of suspense, another challenge he hadn't anticipated. The message hinted at the world outside the apartment, the pressures of his secret life colliding with reality. Emma's eyes flicked to the phone, then back to him. Who are you really? She asked softly, tension threading her words. Ryan felt the weight of every choice he'd made, every moment he'd dared to step into Alexis. The truth hovered on his lips, but uncertainty rooted him to the spot. The camera, or the audience, lingers on the room. The scattered heels, the neatly folded dress on the chair, the wig slightly askew, and Ryan standing frozen between two identities. Every prop symbolizes a choice, every shadow a secret. The final moment before the screen cuts to black, Alexis takes a cautious step toward Emma, heart hammering, unsure whether this step will bring acceptance, rejection, or a confrontation that could change everything.
The suspense is palpable.